It's been 2 years since Jordan Peele shocked the world with the cultural phenomenon that was Get Out, a film whose box office success was exceeded even more by its critical acclaim. I don't think I can undersell how impressive this turn was. It was less than a year removed from being part of the most dynamic comedy sketch duo in America, sorry Tim and Eric, and here he was winning an Oscar for a goddamn horror movie so good that even the snooty genre haters at the Academy stood up and gave it props. And it was well deserved. Get Out was great, poignant, and a brilliant metaphorical journey of the appropriations of the aesthetics of being black. And the best part? We all knew this was just the beginning. There was no doubt in my mind that whatever Jordan Peele did next was going to be even more exciting. So when Us was announced, I was absolutely elated. I couldn't wait. I saw it opening night and I have to say, I was not disappointed at all. With Us, Jordan returns with a thunderous bang, taking the ambition of Get Out and amplifying it by thousands to create a brand new, earth-shaking horror film that is certainly a worthy successor to his debut. The first most obvious thing I have to talk about is the directing. Within the first 10 minutes, I was already shocked at how much Peele had outdone his directing job in Get Out. Get Out was certainly not poorly directed by any means, in fact I'd call it pretty good. But it was a lot more functional, as a lot of debuts usually are. It worked incredibly well and showed talent, but it wasn't quite what one would call cemented in a style. Peele had yet to find a true sense of showmanship, if you may. And boy does Us deliver on the show! The framing of the shots is absolutely brilliant. He allows for much more space to often give a feeling of being small in a large world, fitting of the story. The addition of the use of dollying in mostly still frames adds a sort of emotional depth that isn't there when it's reserved for motion. We feel the walls closing in, the addition of information, whatever the scene is being used to convey. The occasional dashes of movement add a great deal of eerie play to the scene due to the smoothness and deliberate information communication that is perfect for feeling like you yourself are trapped like our leads are. It's one of the best techniques used in thrillers and horror movies. And of course, the number of absolute eye-catching, memorable frames is something to be praised as well. No doubt, I mean, many of these are just compositional perfections in terms of cinematography, just mwah. A+, good job. One huge improvement in this film, too, for me, is how much it works in terms of pure thrill factor. As much as I adored Get Out, I do have to admit that I got more chills reading the script than when watching the actual final product. While don't get me wrong, Get Out is definitely a horror film. It only really chilled me to my core a few times, while the script itself had much better descriptions that made me feel more like Chris did. Here, meanwhile, I felt like I was riding a roller coaster. Every single sting felt meaningful, my pace quickened as their blows got closer, and it all felt so much more impactful in how it was presented. You felt the pain and fear to its absolute fullest extent. It was enough to make me melt completely in my seat. It's even still stuck with me as time's gone on. And as the film went on, and as I've had time to think about it, I got in a lot of chills just thinking about the implications as well. And I truly imagine what it'd be like to be in that position. Not because I was just simply curious about how I'd handle it, but more because I felt like I was there with the characters. And I can't deny the absolute shaking power of a director's ability to enforce an emotional state like that. It's just incredible. The cast is amazing too. I mean, the proposition of not only playing a character, but playing a double of that character and having to fight for both sides is pretty intimidating. But they all pull it off pretty nicely. The highlight, of course, though, is obviously Lupita Nyong'o. Lupita Nyong'o? I'm trying, I'm sorry. She controls the film. Her turn as Red is breathtaking in its dominance, the sheer range of absolute rage and malicious intent that she exhibits in her smile, and the way her eyes turn and stare bullets into the family is just absolutely incredible. The rest of the family is of course great too, but they all pale in comparison to how absolutely amazing Lupita is. I guarantee you that by the end of the year, if this is not one of my favorite performances, then this year will end up going down as one of the best in acting history. She's that good. Besides Lupita though, there is one other actor I feel the need to mention, and it's someone who wasn't really included in any promotional material. And that's Tim Heidecker. Tim fucking Heidecker is in this film. And he's amazing! He is the perfect comic relief horror character. I can't think of a single flaw that he brought in his performance. He just commands this douchey, rich idiot energy that's so inadequate in his attempts at being cool despite his actual success that gives it all this incredible offbeat hysterical energy that complements the more serious underpinnings so well. Just Hollywood, hire him more, please. And while you're at it, bring back bedtime stories. And this is all without getting into the most pertinent element of this film. It's writing. If there was one aspect that Get Out proved Peele was already batting way above his weight, it was writing. And this follow-up is nothing if not an absolutely worthy successor. Peele is still rivaling Shyamalan for his work with the twist, as this film constantly kept me guessing where it was going to go. This is a kind of film that absolutely shook me when I learned what lurked beneath it, and I honestly cannot say that I imagined this to be what it ended up becoming. It's a film that has you looking for clues in all the wrong directions, until you're left dumbfounded by the fact that maybe you hadn't counted for an easy idea. And I love that. See, this is how you do it. In fact, it's something that I kinda have to talk around. It's a film that works best by swooping you up in the entire story of it all and leaving your thoughts crawling with the implications for the end, and it's so spectacular that I don't want to ruin the experience. And of course, Peele doesn't skimp out on the metaphorical aspect of this film. It's certainly not as direct as Get Out and a lot more interpretable too, but I think it's absolutely brilliantly done for how different it is in its style. Again, since this is supposed to be a spoiler-free review, and I prefer you all not go in knowing anything about what the plot's about, I'm not really gonna get into it. Besides, I think it deserves a much deeper dive than I could give in this sort of short-form style that I'm doing here. What I will say in the most spoiler-free way possible is that what I think Peele presents here is a cautionary tale of what the future holds for so many Americans if they continue to live on not caring for what they've done to their fellow man. And it's not pretty. Get Out may be a documentary, as Peele referred to it on Twitter, but Us is a horror movie, and one where the terror can come true very soon. Really, there was a lot I adored here, and it's clear Peele has cleared an extremely high bar and topped Get Out immediately in his follow-up. However, my love for this film is faulted by its unfortunate issues in some areas, namely the fact that it tends to lean a bit too much on its comedy at times. In fact, I would argue that's also a huge problem with Get Out as well, but it's much more present here. Having scenes of arguing amongst the family be comedic really fucks with the tone, and while I praise Tim Heidecker's job in the film, I will say the reason that worked so well was because that was the kind of character he was, and he's such a side character, he's never really had to carry the weight of seriousness of the film on its back, but forcing it on our lead family in a tough situation like they're going through, and doing it so much feels incredibly forced and really unnecessary. It feels like Peele's just kind of trying to make you remember that, hey, he started out as a comedian, and he's still really funny. It's really not needed. Not to mention, I will admit, due to the analogies leads being a bit more buried this time, those messages seem kind of bumbled. And while they work well enough for the film to be great to me, I won't lie, there are some points in the film that don't seem to fit perfect into the analogy, and maybe those were moments that were more ignored to give the story a bit more of a acceptable pacing time. I just feel like it gives it a bit more of a rougher overall identity than Get Out had. It's not a huge problem, but it's one that shows that as much as the film does succeed at being a great successor for Peele's eventual legacy, he still has room to grow even more on his next feature. Either way, this film is one incredible thrill ride and one that further cements Peele as the new heir apparent to the throne of the king of suspense. All from the guy who made fun of college football players' names a few years ago. What a crazy fucking world. I love it. Jordan Peele's Us gets an 8 out of 10.